Have you ever wanted to use someone else's video, audio, or text in your own content, but you're worried that you could get copyright claims, lose monetization, lose your YouTube channel, or worst of all, be sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars? Don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll have my proven 4.5-step guide on how to legally use someone's content even without their permission and avoid losing your YouTube channel and even your business. And for those that stick around till the end, I'll be giving away a free downloadable checklist to help implement these steps the right way for each of your videos. As a business and copyright attorney for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of content creators protect their content. I've also researched the top copyright and fair use cases since 1978, including a famous artist, musician, and top YouTuber, which recently changed the fair use game forever. And I found that over 60% of cases involving copyright infringement deny fair use. This means that over 60% of content creators using someone else's video, audio, or text are breaking the law by violating copyright. Let's make sure you aren't one of the 60% by following my 4.5 tips in this video, all of which are needed, and the most important tip which I share towards the end. It may seem obvious, but you can't just take someone else's original content and use it as your own because of copyright laws. Copyright encourages new creations by giving creators exclusive rights, allowing them to recoup their investment of time, money, and effort. Without copyright, creativity would suffer and stall. But if you can't copyright original content, how can you use it then? Well, there are two ways. Number one, get permission. Number two, use it under fair use, which is allowed in very limited circumstances and when it benefits everyone, including the original creator. So here are my tips to ensure that your content qualifies as fair use. Tip number one, shorter is not always better. Have you ever heard someone say,
if you only use 30% or less of someone's content in your video, you're fine?
Well, this is really a dangerous lie. Let's look at a top YouTuber. H3H3 Productions, also known as Ethan and Hill Klein, are known for their reaction videos. In one of their videos, they reacted to almost 14 minutes of the Bold Guy skit. The YouTuber who created this skit sued for copyright infringement, and H3H3 claimed fair use. Even though H3H3 used a ton of the video, it won on fair use because of all the other tips I'll discuss later. As to the amount of the video used, the court didn't mind that a lot of the video was used, but why? What if, on the other hand, a content creator used only, say, 10 seconds of this Mr. Beast video? Is this okay because only 10 seconds were used? What if this small portion of the movie Forrest Gump was used? Or this small portion of Rocky? In the Mr. Beast, Forrest Gump, and Rocky clips, these were extremely short, but they were all pivotal and impactful moments of that content. So is taking a small portion that has the most impact of the video worse than taking a large portion of the video? Well, there are no absolute rules as to how much of copyrighted work may be copied and still be considered fair use. The amount and type of content taken needs to be balanced with the other tips I provide later. However, the reason that the H3H3 court was okay with the length of content used was because the amount was necessary to accomplish the purpose of H3H3's reaction video, going back to the content needing to benefit everyone to be considered fair use. Taking only what is absolutely necessary for your content is tip number one, and will lean towards fair use, whether the length is 14 minutes or 10 seconds, and whether or not the content taken contains the climactic moments, as I did here using Mr. Beast, Forrest Gump, and Rocky. Following this with the next tips will help ensure you are safe to use others' content in your videos. But first, if you like tip one, please hit that like button below so that other content creators just like you can get the benefit too, and we can help push out the creativity of more creators. Tip number two, factual is better than made up. Not all work is created equal. And if you find yourself using the wrong type of work, you could find yourself in trouble. Do you ever wonder how news programs can share photos, stories, and other content without getting hit with copyright infringement? There's a reason. If NBC, for example, provided news and commentary on the death of O.J. Simpson, showing old news reports and videos from his trial, the Bronco chase, and other parts of his life, would that be okay? What if, on the other hand, NBC aired the portions of the series The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, without the permission from Netflix? Would that be okay? Looking at the type of content used news is the key factor for tip number 2. The first is news and educational, while the second is more creative. Copyright and fair use handle each differently. Remember, the purpose of copyright is spreading original creative arts so that everyone benefits. Factual work, like news programs, contribute to the knowledge and education of society and are treated differently from highly creative works like movies or videos, which are the result of significant creative effort and personal expression. The spreading of facts and ideas is less restricted to encourage educational and informational purposes, and copying from factual works or news accounts is more likely to be held fair use than is copying from more creative works. It's therefore important to use more factual and educational type content and not creative works of others. That's tip number 2. The next 2 tips are by far the most important. If you were to choose any tips to follow, it would be these, although the others are important also. In fact, when this next tip was followed, 90% of cases found fair use. That's how big it is in swaying fair use. So let's look at a recent and one of the most influential copyright cases of all time involving a famous artist and a musician. I'm talking about Andy Warhol and Prince. A photographer took a photo of Prince and licensed the photo to Vanity Fair so that the magazine could have Warhol create a portrait using the photo for the magazine cover. At the same time, Warhol, without the permission of the photographer, created a series of portraits from the photo. One of those was called the Orange Prince. Later, after Warhol died, his estate actually licensed the Orange Prince to Vanity Fair to be used on the cover. The photographer ended up suing Warhol's estate, claiming copyright infringement, and Warhol claimed fair use. The case went all the way up to the US Supreme Court, which doesn't usually happen in copyright cases. The question for the court was whether Warhol's Orange Prince just replaced the original or instead added something new with a further purpose or different character, serving a completely distinct end. But what does this mean for you as a content creator, and who won the case? It's not enough just to change or transform the content into something else. Warhol clearly did that here, turning the photo into the Orange Prince. We need to look at how the content was used. For example, in Warhol, both were used in the magazine. On the flip side, if the Orange Prince was used in, say, a museum and not the magazine, the uses would be completely different and would likely weigh in favor of fair use. We also need to look at the end purpose of using the original content. In Warhol, the purpose of both was licensing to the magazine to use on the cover in order to honor Prince. This weighed against fair use. On the flip side, if the Orange Prince was used for a different end purpose, like parody, criticism, commentary, or teaching, this would favor fair use. Similar to what I did here in this video with the Mr. Beast, Forrest Gump, and Rocky clips. Oh, and the Supreme Court found Warhol's use was not fair use. The photographer in Warhol's portrait had the same purpose because both were licensed for use in a magazine, and that Warhol's Orange Prince photo was not distinct enough to be protected under fair use. And there was no justification for it. So tip number 3 is this: make it your own, whether you're adding something or not, making sure your use and end purpose are different from the original. Tip number 4, there's a difference between making money from your content and taking money from the original content owner. Remember, the purpose of copyright is to allow creators to spread their original content without the threat of somebody stealing it or taking money from them. If this was allowed, creators wouldn't create and originality wouldn't spread. I know what you're thinking. As content creators, one of our goals is to make money from AdSense, sponsorships, product sales, course sales, and other ways. This is great, but as long as you're not doing it at the expense of the original creator. This will weigh in favor of fair use, but why? Ever hear the phrase, all publicity is good publicity? Well, that's true here too. Just like in H3H3 where they reacted to and commented on another video, this provides more publicity to the original creator. If your new content increases demand for the original, it's not taking away money or potential market for the author, but the exact opposite, likely putting money in their pocket. So if using the original content benefits everyone, including the original creator, it's more likely to be considered fair use. In this way, the fourth factor, like the first factor, asks whether the alleged infringer transformed the source material in such a way that demand for the new work can exist alongside demand for the original. Tip number 4.5, and it's only a half because no bearing on fair use, but it's gonna go a long way for preventing copyright claims, strikes, and other lawsuits. You're scrolling on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, and you come across someone else's video that includes clips of your video which took you days and days to come up with. Nowhere in the video or description description is there a mention of your name or your channel? How would that make you feel? Wouldn't it feel like stealing? For me, I know it would, and I would have some type of animosity towards that creator. The content creator only benefits from the repost if the work is cited, leading others back to the original source. It's the idea of giving credit where credit is due. Giving credit to someone when using their content is not only an ethical obligation, but can avoid copyright claims and plagiarism claims, and also have positive psychological impacts that can ultimately make you more money. Here's how. From your perspective, giving credit to the original creator benefits you because citing your sources builds your credibility and authority on the subject, showing your audience that you've done your research. Gives your statements more weight by indicating that they came from a reliable source. Again, it builds your authority. This ultimately can lead to more views and more money in your pocket. From the original creator's perspective, giving credit is a form of acknowledgement and reciprocity. People feel valued and respected when their work is recognized, which can lead to positive emotions. They also may feel obligated to give back to you in the future, sending views your way and customers your way. Also, if your content is sending traffic to the original creator, why would they want to shut that traffic off with copyright claims and strikes? Here are some practical ways to give credit. Mention the creator and channel in your actual content. Cite to their content and channel in your video description. Write a copyright notice in your description that the clips are copyrighted by the original creator and used under fair use. Tag them in the video. And there's many other ways to do it. These are just a few. Make sure you give credit where credit is due. It could save your content. And now, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, here's a gift for you. It's a checklist for following these tips and complying with fair use in all of your content. If you follow these tips, you can use someone else's video, audio, or text in your own content without worrying about copyright claims, loss of monetization, loss of your YouTube channel, or worst of all, being sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The link to the checklist is in the pinned comments below. But of course, there's still a chance that you could be sued for copyright infringement. And if this happens, you'll want to make sure that your LLC is set up the right way so that your personal assets are not at risk, which I explain in this video here.